Where are the nurses?
Spooked off, maybe. Maybe some sort of glamour? At least they're out of the way. I glanced at the sword and at the long, slender spike of metal set into its crossguard. Perhaps it was only my imagination, but I thought I could see flecks of red still upon it. It probably rust, I reasoned. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's rust. I set the candle down upon the floor, where it continued to burn pinpoint clear, indicating a spiritual presence. A big one. Bob hadn't been lying when he'd said that the ghost of Agatha Hagglethorne was no two-bit shade. Stay back. Give me a minute.
If what the spirit told you is correct, this creature is dangerous. Let me go first. It will be safer.
I nodded toward the glowing blade. Trust me, a ghost would feel the sword coming before you even got to the door. Let me see what I can do first. If I can dust the spook, this whole contest is over before it begins. I didn't wait for Michael to answer me. Instead, I took my blasting rod and staff in my left hand, and in my right, I grasped the pouch. I untied the simple knot that held the sack closed and slipped forward into the dark. When I reached the swinging doors, I pressed one of them, and it slowly opened. I remained still, listening.
Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird.
A woman's voice. Gentle. Lovely. I glanced back at Michael and then slipped inside the door into total darkness. Now, I couldn't see, but I'm not a wizard for nothing. I thought of the pentacle upon my breast, over my heart, the silver amulet that I had inherited from my mother. It was a battered piece of jewelry, scarred and dented from uses for which it was never intended, but I wore it still. The five-sided star within the circle was the symbol of my magic, of what I believed in, embodying the five forces of the universe working in harmony, contained inside of human control. I focused on it and slid a little of my will into it, and the amulet began to glow with a gentle blue-silver light, which spread out before me in a subtle wave, showing me the shapes of a fallen chair and a pair of nurses at a desk behind a counter, slumped forward over their stations, breathing deeply. The soothing, quiet lullaby continued as I studied the nurses. Enchanted sleep. That was nothing new. They were out, they weren't going anywhere, and there was little sense in wasting time or energy in trying to break the spell's hold on them. I found myself reaching for the fallen chair with the intention of setting it upright so that I would have a comfortable place to sit down for a little rest. I froze and had to remind myself that I would be an idiot to sit down beneath the influence of the unearthly song, even for a few moments. Subtle magic, and strong. Even knowing what to expect, I had barely sensed its touch in time. I skirted the chair and moved forward into a room filled with dressing hooks and little pastel hospital gowns hung upon them in rows. The singing was louder here, though it still drifted around the room with a ghostly lack of origin. One wall was little more than a sheet of plexiglass, and behind it was a room that attempted to look sterile and warm at the same time. Row upon row of little glass cribs on wheeled stands stood in the room. Tiny occupants with toy-sized hospital mittens over their brand-new fingernails and tiny hospital stocking caps over their bald heads were sleeping and dreaming infant dreams. Walking among them, visible in the glow of my wizard's light, was the source of the singing. Agatha Hagglethorne had not been old when she died. She wore a proper high-necked shirt, as was appropriate to a lady of her station in 19th century Chicago, and a long, dark, no-nonsense skirt. I could see through her to the little crib behind her, but other than that, she seemed solid, real. Her face was pretty, in a strained, bony sort of way, and she had her right hand folded over the stump at the end of her left wrist. She had a captivating singing voice. Literally. She lilted out her song, spun energy into the air that lulled listeners into deeper and deeper sleep. If she was allowed to continue, she could draw both infants and nurses into a sleep from which they would never awaken, and the authorities would blame it on carbon monoxide or something a little more comfortably normal than a hostile ghost. I crept closer. I had enough ghost dust to pin down Agatha and a dozen spooks like her, and allow Michael to dispatch her swiftly, with a minimum of mess and fuss. Just as long as I didn't miss.